afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for spending the time to my visitors. And I hope you've had a lovely time at the Vision for Living Health Show. I always like coming because there's always some fun things to do and see. New things come and go. Right, I'm Stephanie Lashford at the Sanford Clinic. I've been doing what I do for years. In fact, I've been in practice 23 years now. And I love what I do because there's nothing quite like turning people around and giving them a nice life. But what we're going to talk about this afternoon is growing your own probiotics. And what I feel is that growing your own probiotics is as valuable to your health as not smoking. And we're going to not only explain to you this afternoon why to grow your own probiotics, but how. Hence, we're going to take a little bit of a demonstration. Okay, I will now explain what a probiotic is. And we've got some nice animations today as well. So you can smile at those as well, listen to me. Right, it's a mixture of helpful bacteria that are grown on a substrate or medium and then eaten. And we have some fancy names for our little bacteria. And a couple of them are called Lactobacillus thermophilus and Streptococcus thermophilus. So we've got a couple of little chaps here, lacto and strepto, just to remind ourselves. And it's quite fun to have little animations there. Right, you may have seen some of the commercial probiotics. And the commercial probiotics have a number of unnecessary ingredients. For example, please come in, have a seat. Sugar. Have a seat. Now, sugar, Pure, White and Deadly, which is a book written by Professor Yudkin many, many years ago, and he told us how bad for sugar was, and people these days are actually getting against sugar, aren't we? We're actually seeing people coming out and people saying, no, I'm not going to eat sugar. There are cookery books on it now. And I thought, goodness me, it takes all this time for people to get it. But you do realise there's a big sugar industry out there. Very politically motivated, lots of money in sugar. But that's why it hasn't happened. But I think these people have moved their money because no one's bothering so much now. So I think they must be putting their money into probiotics or something. Anyway, the next one we're looking at is cow's milk. Cow's milk is meant for baby cows, not adult humans. There's no other mammal species on this planet that eats the milk of another animal. And I don't know if you know, but a cow has 3 stomachs: mason, rumen, mason, abomason. I'll use this information I have, but they have 3 opportunities to digest the milk. We have a sac here, which is about the size of a sheep's and a goat's stomach. So drinking goat's and sheep's milk is more beneficial. We can actually cope with that, because if you actually consume cow's milk, it develops into big lumps like cottage cheese. So if you've got a baby, a poor old baby is trying to digest this cow's milk, you've got these big lumps there. It's hard work for the tummy. So cow's milk is out. Colourings first. Colourings. Well, for my book, some people are allergic to colourings, even if they are natural. Because from my book, natural things can be much of a problem and people can be intolerant to them. Flavourings, again, they can be chemical, they can be natural, still people can be intolerant to them. Not everybody gets on with them. So that's your commercial probiotic. So by growing your own, you'll remove all of those unnecessary ingredients. You can also buy a probiotic as a capsule or a powder. And boy, are they expensive. You can pay £30 or so for a month's course of a probiotic. And you don't actually know how long they've been on the shelf. They could have been there ages. They could have been there a long time. So their potency is definitely going to be reduced, even if they're refrigerated. So by growing your own, you know that they are fresh and ready to go. So these are some valuable reasons why you should grow your own. The more important reason I can tell you is that when you grow your own, the friendly, helpful bacteria are ready for action. They're ready to go. They enter your digestive system immediately and start to take over a bit of the space. By doing this, they don't let unwanted visitors occupy the space in the gut. So they don't have any room to grow. So all this friendly stuff is going in, and they're fully formed and ready for action. You don't have to wait for your body to digest them or to start using them and to start colonising your gut. These are ready to go. As soon as you eat them, they start occupying space, they start growing, and they start working for you immediately. So by eating a small amount at the end of each meal, 3 times a day for about 6 weeks, you will have a healthier ecosystem working on your behalf. And why is it important? It's important because over 80% of your immune system is in the lining of your gut. It's a barrier to protect you from infection, from disease, from bacteria, and we know it leads to a strong and competent immune system, which in turn gives a person the likelihood of good and robust health. What we know about those who do not have a robust gut flora is they have reduced and poor immunity. And so people can succumb to some conditions I'm going to talk about because of poor immunity. Something called a C. diff infection, or MRSA, which, if left untreated, can be very, very serious indeed. One can also have inflammatory bowel disease or disorders, which can be bloating, it can be pain, it can be IBS, it can be advanced IBS with inflammatory bowel disease, it can be Crohn's and celiac. Other neurological disorders that come from poor immunity and such like are Parkinson's, I think going to be quite new to you, multiple sclerosis, ME, which is myalgic encephalomyelitis, or chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, this is quite revolutionary. I hope you'll be impressed, because I was impressed when I heard about it. And this is why I wanted to tell you about it today. There's also new light at the end of the tunnel. And the development that I suspect you will hear more about in the coming years. What is this? Well, it's a new way of treating conditions I've just mentioned. It's called fecal transplant. Let me have a look at it. He looks quite cute. We wanted to get it over in a fun way. Yes, it's called fecal transplant. Similar, but not exactly the same, to bone marrow transplant. But it's similar in that healthy material is transplanted. Fecal matter is harvested from a screened, healthy donor. So you've got this superb, these can often be Olympic athletes. These can be people with the most robust immune system going. And they are taken into the laboratory and they're screened and the fecal matter is harvested and it's prepared, and from it are removed the immune boosting bacteria and yeasts, and it's then made into a suppository and administered. Now, there's only 3 clinics in the world doing this. There's one on the outskirts of London, there's one in California, and there's one in Australia. And they have great success using this technique because, I don't know if you're aware, but there has been no new antibiotics for 25 years. And people who come to our show here, they're not sort of people who want to use antibiotics. But sometimes if you have an operation, you have to. So, because antibiotics are becoming resistant, and we will become, I think this will become mainstream treatment. So, because, and I lost my phone.
So you're saying that fecal transplants are now going to be the new thing? Is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah. And I know a lot of people don't look at this but if you realise that antibiotics are probably not going to be available to you, and I don't know if you've heard recently that people are saying that ordinary operations are going to be more.
I understand what I appreciate what you're saying, should I say? But it's hard enough to consider your own fecal matter, let alone someone else's.
Well,
you know, it's
yes.
kind of a bit.
No, but what actually happens is that I said to the guy, "How are you going to sell this to people?" And he
Yeah.
said, "Well, when you show people," he said, "we take them into the laboratories and show them, but there's actually no fecal matter left. All there is the harvested bacteria and the harvested yeast."
Oh, I see.
It's extracted.
Right, okay, I'm with you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah? Oh, I got you there.
It's the name that puts people off.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You kind of
we have to use it because I think it's really exciting. Because there's so many conditions that actually improves people. People are actually getting success with Parkinson's disease. They're actually getting success with multiple sclerosis. People who've got C. diff infections who are really poorly, and they're getting them better using this. And this chap, I spoke to him, the guy who runs the lab, and he said they're working with the NHS now because the NHS can see this is going to be amazing. Don't forget you heard it here first. That they're working on a capsule where this harvested, cleaned up material can be put in. And people will swallow it, and it will take a certain length of time to hit down here where they want it. And I said, does the pharmaceutical industry know about what you're doing? And he said, well, he does look both ways when he crosses the road. But I think it will take off big time. So there we are. Making your own homegrown probiotics and keeping your gut healthy. Full circle now, is really important. So, as I said, it's as useful to your health as not. So that's the why. And now, before we have questions, which I think there might be a few, we're going to look at how. Right, I had hoped there was going to be a little table here. But there isn't. So you've got your sheet of paper now. So let's have a little look. How to grow your own probiotics. Cheerio, thanks for coming. It's a cultured milk product, and the one that we have here, if you're actually allergic to milk, we can't let you use this because it's actually got a bit of milk in it. But if you're just a little bit intolerant, you'll get away with it, and you can use it to grow your probiotics. Another name for the probiotic is Kefir, but there can be commercial Kefir as well, which has got sugar in it, which has got colorants in it. So, you know, trying to encourage you, a bit like growing your own lettuce and growing your own tomatoes. Growing your own probiotic is really, really good. Now, as they say in true Blue Peter style, here's one I made earlier.
You know the kefir, does that have any connection to the kefir leaves, or is that something?
No, they're curry leaves.
It's just a similar name.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
This is some I made at home, and it's made with soy milk. And what I do, sorry, I was going to work it this way, so it's a bit awkward on this one. What I do at home also is, when I switch the Arga off and I've got a nice warm kitchen, which I grow this on, I then get the yoghurt maker out. Now this is quite an old one, which my husband bought me years ago, but Lakeland Plastics do a really good one. My mum who's 80, she grows her own. And it's got, well, you can buy extra pots so that you've got one in the fridge with what you're using and the clean one in the cupboard ready to make your next batch. So what one does is take a substrate. Now that can be anything. It can be coconut milk, hazelnut milk, goat's milk, if you're using goat's milk. I make mine out of UHT soya milk, and it has to be UHT because it has to be sterile. It's not sterile, and if all your equipment hasn't been cleaned and scalded, you can have rogue bacteria in it, and it doesn't work. So you start with a clean, sterile, and I use preserving jars. Don't use a storage jar because the glass isn't strong enough to withstand boiling water. So you scald it and you let it dry. If you're making your first batch from the very beginning, you take your starter, which is a packet of this like so, that is opened and goes into the jar. You then put in a little bit of the soy milk and swirl it round. Add some more soy milk and swirl it, and then continue till the whole of the box of the soy milk has been added. The lid goes down. If you've got a warm airing cupboard, it can go into the airing cupboard. If you've got a warm kitchen or a warm room or a warm radiator or a warm corner, and 18 hours later, you will have something like this. Don't be alarmed if there's solids and liquids. It's a bit like yogurt. What you have to do then is just empty it out and stir it up. Now, if you're clean and tidy with all your processes, you can keep them going for some considerable time. If you're really clever, I know a doctor friend of mine, she's been having hers growing for 12 months. Because of holidays and things, I've only ever managed 4 months. But you can if you keep everything clean and tidy. So for the price of a sachet, which depends on where you get it from, can be anything between 7, 10, 11 pounds, you can have months and months of probiotics at a reasonable price and not £30 a pot like you pay in the health stores. So once you've got your first batch of probiotic, you then wait till you're down to the bottom, and depending on which method you're using, you then transfer that into your clean jar or that into a little bit of your yogurt maker and pour on more substrate. Now, on milk. Now, you can change it as well. So if you make it with soya milk and you want to do some coconut milk, then you can do that. So it swaps over quite easily. Now what's really nice to do is to start adding things. One of my favourites is chlorella. Don't know if you've heard of chlorella. Yeah, it's a really good thing. So I'm into what I call blender breakfasts because they're dead easy. Everything wanged into the blender and then you drink it. So this is really good. I put more soy milk in mine. I put in some chlorella powder. And as you probably guessed, I'm not an advocate of pure white and deadly. So the sorts of things I use is is stevia, and this is the herb stevia, not the pure white stuff that the manufacturers have made. So you can sprinkle your bits of stevia in to sweeten it. The other thing I think is rather delicious is coconut palm sugar made from coconut blossom nectar. Hideously expensive, but I'm worth it. And so that is delicious.
The stevia herb.
Sorry?
The stevia herb, is that readily available then?
Yes. Do you know the farmers market on a Sunday on Riverside?
I'm not from Cardiff.
Oh,
but I
right.
meant anywhere.
Whereabouts
in
are you
the
from?
UK. From Yorkshire.
Yorkshire. Well, I think the internet maybe
Oh,
is a good place to
the
look.
old internet.
Internet. So I should have said
Sell it on
internet.
Amazon, you do.
Yes, you can get it on Amazon.
Right.
Yeah.
Buy seeds and sow it. Has that got bought some at Tongwins at Pugh's Garden Centre?
Yes.
Some stevia seeds.
It's not easy to grow though.
I bought some from, I don't know, St Fagans had an unusual plant stay a few years ago, and I had a plant for a couple of years through winter as well outside.
Right.
But sheltered.
Yes.
Grew tall, soft leaves.
Did you like
off
it?
In the shoe. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
There we are.
Is there anything wrong?
All
with
good
using
to stevia growers now.
Anything wrong with using the stevia powder?
And only that it's refined. Some people can get away with it. Some people do better on the herb itself. Yeah. I quite like this as a sweetener because it's one that I can tolerate and a lot of people can tolerate, and it's got a nice taste as well. I make my mum rice pudding sweetened with this, and it's absolutely delicious.
What do you say?
This is coconut palm sugar. You can come and taste it. We're going to do little tastings if you like in a minute. And the other thing I do is I have my own allotment and I grow my own tayberries and blackcurrants and things. So I encourage you to do that as well as part of quality food and healthy lifestyle. So, if you have a look on the sheet, actually, there's some more suggestions. There's you can add spices such as cinnamon and various things, and cardamom even if you like that.
It's nice on its own.
What's that now?
Okay.
Yes. My young assistant over here says not. So he said, "Don't you give people that just on its own because they won't like it." He said,
Well, probably a little bit sharpish. But
"Yeah, no, I quite like it actually." So,
So you know the stevia and the coconut palm sugar,
yes,
they're alternative sweeteners, aren't they? You're
Yes.
not saying put both of them in. You're just
no,
saying one.
either or.
Either or, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah, sweet and sticks. But they're fantastic, you know, in a blender breakfast where you were making something with chlorella and fruit and your Kefir, your probiotics. Yeah.
Work quicker if you warm the milk up first.
No. I mean, don't have it really ice cold, but just room temperature. Leave your Tetra. Yeah, I'd leave that out just in the room to warm up before I used it. Yeah. And the good thing about these starters is that they have a couple of years shelf life, so you don't have to use them immediately. You can pop them in the fridge, so you can have a little stock in so that you don't run out. So yes. So if you can find some of the freeze-dried fruit powders, that's also really good. And some of the natural flavourings. And what's quite nice is to make another kind of breakfast is to soak your seeds overnight in it, and it makes a rich, creamy breakfast, as I've already said. If you make a smoothie, I don't know about you, what you find, but I find that it gets quite hot in the blender, so it sort of makes it a bit unpleasant if it's warm. So I stick an ice cube in as well, so that you've got a really ice-cold smoothie. There's nothing worse than sort of slightly warm.
Or some frozen berries out the freezer that are grown in the garden in the summer and then gone in the freezer.
If you've got amazing, yeah, then you've got
I do that.
yes, that's fantastic. Yes. And there we are. So, growing your probiotics is really, really important, and I hope that's encouraged you to think about being adventurous and actually doing it.
Just one point, and
Yes?
I got this off on the shopping channel, so it's bound to be right. You talked earlier on about putting ice into a blender.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things they say is don't put ice into a blender because it can damage the blades. Now, I don't know if that's true.
Depends what make it is.
Yeah.
If it's a blend, like a Vitamix.
You can do a
If it's a
Nutribullet.
Vitamix, you'll get away with it,
Oh.
yeah. But, I mean, if you've got sort of your bog standard bench side one, is that you give it a bit of a... So you put in crushed ice in,
Oh,
yeah. But Vitamixes, it'll do anything, won't it? It'll make tarmac and cement and all kinds. So has that inspired you to think a bit more about probiotics? Has it inspired you to maybe go off and think about actually growing it and having it as part of your everyday smart, healthy things to do? And I just think it's such a shame that people aren't taught to do it. And you know the other good thing I want you to do as well, the other smart thing for your gut is to eat quality sauerkraut. So if you use this and sauerkraut and green juices, your gut will be saying nirvana, and it's just amazing.
I bought a jar of sauerkraut and I have heard it's very good. It's still standing there. I'm not at the nerve to open it and eat it.
Really?
But how do I eat it?
Well, you can do it German style,
How is that?
the sausages.
Oh, I see.
We have it for lunch, don't we, Josh? I have the Andy and Debbie's 100% meat sausages. And we have it with sausages.
Yeah.
I
And you have to eat it cold?
cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't warm it.
No.
And I have it with fish, smoked mackerel, smoked salmon, smoked trout, anything like that. It's absolutely delicious with a salad. So sauerkraut, kefir made by your good self, and green juices, and you'll have awesome stomachs.
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.